In the early hours of New Year's Day, 2023, a woman rushed through her home in a wealthy suburb of Massachusetts. She packed lightly, kissed her sleeping children, and hurried out the door for what was supposed to be a sudden business trip. But she never boarded her flight. She never arrived at her destination. And by the time anyone realized she was missing, it was already too late. This is the disturbing and unraveling story of Ana Walshe, a mother, a wife, a rising corporate executive, and the man now convicted of taking her life, Brian Walshe. Stay close. Because what investigators uncovered behind closed doors would shock an entire country. Ana Walshe seemed unstoppable. Born in Serbia, she worked her way into the American corporate world with extraordinary speed. By 2022, she was a respected real estate executive in Washington, D.C. and a devoted mother of 3 young boys. But behind the Instagram-perfect family photos, tension simmered. Her husband, Brian Walshe, was facing federal charges for art fraud. He wasn't allowed to leave Massachusetts. He wasn't allowed to work freely. And according to friends close to the couple, the pressure inside the Walshe home was reaching a breaking point. Still, Ana tried to hold everything together, balancing her career in D.C. while maintaining family life in Massachusetts. But then came New Year's Eve 2022. A night Ana spent exchanging messages with friends, a night she seemed anxious, distracted, even scared, though no one knew why at the time. On January 1, 2023, Brian told police that Ana woke him around 4 or 5 a.m. and said she had a sudden work emergency in Washington, D.C., so sudden, in fact, that she booked a same-day flight and rushed out the door. At first, the story sounded inconvenient but possible. But then investigators checked. Ana never called a rideshare. She never boarded a plane. She never arrived in Washington, D.C. Her phone stopped transmitting early that morning near her home. And 3 days later, when Ana still hadn't shown up to work, her co-workers, not her husband, contacted the police. That was the moment the case shifted. Hard. From the minute investigators interviewed Brian, red flags lit up everywhere. He claimed he spent New Year's Day with his children, then visited his mother. Surveillance footage proved that was false. He claimed he only left home once on January 2nd. That was also false. Because cameras caught him doing something far stranger. Brian Walshe spent hours at local Home Depots, purchasing mops, tarps, buckets, plastic sheets, goggles, and cleaning supplies, nearly $500 worth. And he paid in cash. He was already on probation. He knew he was always being monitored. So police asked, why on earth would he need all that? The answer surfaced sooner than anyone expected. When investigators seized the Walshe family's devices, their stomachs dropped. Because Brian had been using his son's iPad. And what they found inside it was chilling. Early morning, January 1st, the same time Ana went missing, Brian searched. How long before a body starts to smell? How to stop a body from decomposing? 10 ways to dispose of a body if you really need to. Can you be charged with murder without a body? How long does DNA last? How to clean blood from a wooden floor? Search after search. Minute after minute. The timeline was damning, and unmistakable. Brian had not been panicking over a missing wife. He had been planning exactly what came next. Police soon found a trash site that had already been picked up and processed. They dug through it by hand. Inside, they made heartbreaking discoveries. A bloody knife. A hacksaw. Towels stained with blood. Ana's clothing. And her COVID vaccination card. All discarded in a dumpster miles away. DNA tests confirmed it, the blood belonged to Ana Walshe. And when police returned to the Walshe home, they noticed something odd. The basement smelled like bleach. The floor was freshly scrubbed. And traces of blood remained in the cracks. This wasn't a disappearance. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a violent act, followed by an attempted cover-up. As evidence piled up, friends and co-workers revealed more. Ana had confided that she felt unsafe. That her marriage was collapsing. That she wanted to leave. And Brian knew it. Psychologists would later testify that Brian's life, his identity, his security, depended entirely on Ana. If she left, he feared losing everything, his children, his home, his reputation, and control. The picture became clear: Brian's life was built on manipulation, fraud, and dependency. And Ana was planning an escape. On January 8, 2023, Brian Walshe was arrested for misleading police. But investigators already knew where this was heading. By January 17, Brian was formally charged with the murder of his wife. The public watched as his calm, emotionless face appeared in court, smoothly insisting on his innocence, even as prosecutors read his horrifying search history aloud. He showed no sadness. No fear. No grief. Only calculation. As months passed, more details surfaced, including Brian's financial problems and the couple's growing tension. But then, in 2024, Brian Walshe faced the evidence in full: the surveillance videos, the blood, the dumpster findings, the Google searches, the lies, and the timeline. It was overwhelming. In 2024, Brian Walshe was convicted of murder, even without a recovered body, thanks to what prosecutors called one of the most methodical digital trails they had ever seen. Legal experts described the case as a perfect storm of forensic evidence, technology, and psychological unraveling. But at the center of all the headlines were three young boys who lost both their parents in one cruel stroke. Today, Ana's friends describe her as radiant, hardworking, deeply loving, and fiercely devoted to her children. Her memory lives on in community projects, charity events, and in the stories shared by those who knew her best. She was more than a name in a headline. More than a victim in a case. Ana was a mother, a daughter, a friend, and a woman who tried her best to rise above every obstacle life placed in her path. Her story reminds us of the hidden battles some people face behind closed doors, and how the truth, no matter how deeply buried, eventually rises. The case of Ana and Brian Walshe is a chilling reminder that evil can hide in plain sight, and that sometimes, the most disturbing truths come from the people closest to us. If you'd like more deep, atmospheric true crime stories just like this one, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay tuned. Because the unknown is always closer than you think.